The Lancet has 1,000 recorded uses with 85% efficacy. Russia's unique kamikaze drone breaks all performance records. But about that right after we list the most interesting events that happened in our country during the week. Modernization of one of the largest trunk lines in the Orenburg region began. The length of the 40-stage Kagarlinskaya traction line is 129 kilometers. The route passes through steppe areas with difficult climatic conditions, high wind and ice loads. Power engineers will replace 60 poles and renew the insulation of the power line, which will improve its reliability. The experimental plant of geophysical instrumentation was the first in Russia to master production of the SBF 620 blender for hydraulic fracturing. The blender is used to improve oil recovery efficiency and can almost double the savings on the material that oilmen inject into the reservoir. It is planned to produce up to 4 units per year in Tyumen. Sharapovet's company Mechanica has started production of all-terrain vehicles Tinger TF4, which will be supplied to oil companies. The technique is already used in forest protection, geological exploration and rescue services. The all-terrain vehicle is designed for off-roading, swampy mountainous terrain, driving out of water on ice. It is mainly used for the transportation of people. The technique was tested for more than a year before serial production was launched. Specialists of NPO-SNE and ITMARSH have developed and patented a new method of obtaining wear-resistant coating of steel part surfaces on the basis of single-phase quasi-crystalline alloy. This will increase the service life of parts operating under abrasive wear and alternating loads, and will result in a 45% increase in equipment durability. Rostec State Corporation's Roselektronika Holding has completed testing of the Soyuz-Jet MF complex for receiving data from hydrometeorological satellites for the Russian armed forces. The new equipment will allow receiving satellite images in all modern formats of weather data transmission in high quality. The MF plot is capable of operationally receiving, processing and analyzing hydrometeorological and geophysical information from hydrometeorological spacecraft. The complex allows you to calculate the surface temperature, land and sea, height of the upper boundary of clouds, type and intensity of precipitation and soil moisture content. The equipment displays the data obtained as a result of calculations in the form of tables or overlays on electronic maps. The Alabuga Special Economic Zone launched the production of long-haul semi-trailers from Wegner Meyer. The resident plans to produce up to 3,000 semi-trailers per year, tilt, flatbed, container trailers. This will eliminate the deficit on the Russian market. The company plans to localize production. The total investment in the project amounted to 700,000 rubles. 45 million rubles. The plant will create 200 new jobs. This group started preparations for the start of the main stage of works on the construction of a bridge over the Lena River in Yakutia. The bridge will be 4.6 kilometers long, including 2.5 kilometers in the channel section. The length of the entire new transport infrastructure together with road approaches on the left and right banks will be more than 14 kilometers. This will be the first bridge in the Republic of Sakha-Yakutia, which will provide year-round overland communication between Yakutsk and the Big Land, connect the Trans-Siberian and Baikal-Amur main lines with the Northern Sea Route. It will connect the Lena and Kolyma federal highways with the Vilyui Highway, actually the eastern part of Russia with the coast of the Sea of Okhotsk, and will make it possible to create a transportation and logistics hub combining railroad, river and air transport. Form the northern latitudinal belt, eastern Siberia, peaceful Yakutsk-Magadan. The Lena Bridge is one of the most large-scale and complex infrastructure projects in modern Russia. Despite the turbulence in the global economy, President Putin decided to start construction now. The sequel follows. Because the project is of strategic importance for the development of the east of the country and the northern latitudinal route. Roselmash delivered the first tractors to the main conveyor of the new plant. The tractor plant in Rostov is located on an area of 14 hectares. The production area is 62,000 square meters. The plant can produce up to 5,000 cars per year. The plant also plans to start producing road-building machinery. The Admiralty shipyards held a ceremony of hoisting the Russian naval flag on the large diesel-electric submarine Kronstadt 677 project. The ship has modernized the control system of the ship's technical means, electric propulsion system, navigation system. The submarine will join the brigade of the Northern Fleet. Shipbuilders of the Admiralty shipyard can simultaneously build orders of different directions and projects. Fishing, research vessels, patrol vessels and submarines. This shows that the company employs real professionals who can accomplish any task of any complexity. Well, now let's move on to our Lancet drone. In the West, some are already calling this drone the Kalashnikov among UAVs. It has every chance to become as popular as the most famous product of the Irkutsk-based concern, the Kalashnikov. How to become from an experimental model in 3 years almost the main means of counter-battery warfare of one of the most powerful armies of the planet. Obviously, the designers and developers of Ishhezk-based Zala Arrow, which is part of the Kalashnikov concern, have the answer to this question, as well as to many other questions related to the production of unmanned aircraft. To date, their pairing, the Zala Z-16 reconnaissance drone and the Lancet kamikaze drone, is without a doubt the most effective in the history of this class of vehicles. And unlike FPV drones, this efficiency is not achieved by massive strikes, where most drones don't reach the target at all or fail to engage. This is a real surgeon. An instrument of war, accurate and, strange as it may sound, quite humane for a weapon, since howitzer crews or calculations very often manage to scatter before their equipment is turned into scrap metal. The Lancet started with relatively easy targets, like towed artillery. Squadron Kalashnikovs have a special relationship with Bay M777 howitzers, the famous 3 axes. There were long stretches of time when their rendezvous happened almost every day. And few products of Bay Systems SLAM and armaments managed to come out of it not just intact, but at least with a hope of recovery. The 3 axes kept getting hit, and the nearly $4 million given for this howitzer of this system was burned up in bright red flames by a $37,000 drone. Lancets are now even cheaper, and M777s have virtually disappeared from the fields, despite the high hopes placed on them. And there's nowhere else to get them. More than 100 such systems have received a Russian drone strike, and at least 2. The third of them is unrecoverable. Without the drone of the Hall Z-16, there would be no successes of the main Lancet. This is one of our best small scout drones. The Lancet first announced itself back in Syria, and as soon as the military became convinced that it was an excellent weapon, having shot down a dozen Shahed Takans at various banned Syrian militants in 21 years, almost immediately went into small-scale production. Obviously, the Hall staff is doing well with their creativity and various developments. As soon as real money from the Department of Defense went into this area, the drone instantly began to be upgraded and improved. Thankfully, the structural reserve allowed for it. At first, models with a reinforced warhead appeared, then the Lancet was increased in range from 40 to 70 kilometers. Not long ago, the drone was given night vision and an upgraded targeting system with self-targeting. Lancets are now expected to fly out in whole swarms in the near future under the control of similarly unmanned or manned air staffs. And then any opponent will not be envied. Lancet roles have not been used for a long time. That's blowing up the internet. And Western video hosting sites are blatantly stifling video content featuring them. The Lancet became a first-rate star at the Dubai Air Show 2023. More than 20 countries have applied to study the drone's technical documentation. But our best kamikaze drone is not for sale yet. By the way, the Lancet was far from being a pioneer in this class of drones, but its creators seem to have followed the trends in the development of such technology very closely. The famous American Switchblade 300 was already considered a proven and integral part of the arsenal of U.S. Special Operations Forces and Rapid Response Units by the time the first Lancet-type units were introduced. In Afghanistan alone, U.S. soldiers launched over 4,000 of them, which ultimately did not help them in any way. And finding yourself on a battlefield where the enemy has had powerful RAP systems, the Switchblade 300 did not perform well at all. So did the later Switchblade 600 and the popular Polish War Maid. There are dozens of times fewer episodes with their recorded successful use than our Lancet. Although the total number of units in service is comparable, it's certainly an amazing fact that shows that our country has a wonderful engineering school and that things aren't quite as bleak with drones as they seemed in the first half of 2022. And for that, the guys from ASH have a lot of respect. To make a treadable, affordable, and extremely efficient system devoid of the major shortcomings of its predecessors is a costly endeavor. And the drone is much favored by representatives from the global south. All third-country military journals made separate presentations for him. Here's an infographic from Military Islamic World magazine. It is curious that for a year and a half of active use of Lancets, at least some reliable means of protection against them has not been found. Even the first modifications continue to literally daily replenish the personal account, and in the hands of an experienced operator become a means of defeat with an efficiency close to ideal. So their new and spoken nickname in the West, Kalashnikov, from the UAV, meets the very philosophy of the ultra-reliable and simple, and at the same time homicidal Russian weapons.